Here come the Capitals.
He's in alone. A shot. And a goal!
Bondra gets number 5.
Alexander Ovechkin.
The Capitals are champions.
When people are going to talk about famous dates in Washington Capitals history, you will hear Dale Hunter's goal,
Send out those demons.
Joey Juneau's goal,
The Stanley Cup final.
Rod Langway's goal against the Rangers. But to me, September 9th, 1982 becomes the key date in Washington Capitals history.
David came in, and it was not long after he got the job that he has to tell Mr. Poland, I've traded away your favorite player, Ryan Walter.
He trades two of Mr. Poland's favorite players, Ryan Walter, the captain of the team, and Rick Green.
Think about those guts to be a young general manager and make a massive trade of the team's captain.
And I remember David telling me about the look on Abe's face.
I happened to be at Mr. Poland's house that night, and he says, what do I think? And I said, Mr. Poland, you didn't hire me to give you an analysis of hockey players.
This better work, because Ryan was like a second son to Abe.
As a young fan, I was a fan of Ryan Walter. He was our captain.
Trading away Ryan Walter and Rick Green, that was dramatic.
How often do you trade a captain? That doesn't happen very often. And he got not just one player, but 4 players. How often do you get 4 new players?
Rod Langway, Brian Engblom, Craig Laughlin, Doug Jarvis, NHL Ironman.
4 guys with completely different skill sets, but definitely things that this organization desperately needed.
Well, it was quite a surprise. We were en route to training camp, and I got a word from my agent that there might be a deal pending with Washington, so stay near of home.
Eye-opener, the best way to put it. When you get traded from Montreal, in baseball terms, it'd be like playing for the New York Yankees and going to an expansion team.
Walk into practice, first day of training camp, and I get stopped. And it's Langway. And he says, they want to see you upstairs. I just got through with it. We're heading somewhere.
When we came to Washington, Dennis Brooke got 60 goals that year before we got here, and they didn't make the playoffs. It was Mike Gardner, first round pick. Bobby Carpenter coming into his own. Ben Gustafson, one of the better players in the world. So we had plenty of offensive power, but we didn't have that sense of keep the puck out of our net.
To get Rod and Brian really solidified our blue line.
Rod Langway turns this franchise around immediately.
Number 5, Captain Rod Langway.
Langway taking out 2 Nordiques in the corner.
Rod Langway, there was no better defenseman in the National Hockey League for a few years, and he brought that stability.
And those 2 are nose to nose.
Overnight, we turned into a defensive team. We were one of the best defensive teams for years. And Langway was the start of that.
And Brian Engblom was an excellent two-way defenseman.
Brian Engblom was second team All-Star for the league. He was my partner. And our goal was worry about our zone first. Worry about defense, goalies.
I don't believe it.
And then Doug Jarvis, who was the #1 penalty killer in the NHL.
Perfect fourth-line center, great face-off guy. Dougie Jarvis was the Iron Man.
Those who know baseball records, Cal Ripken's longest playing streak, Doug Jarvis had that up until a few years ago as an outstanding defensive center. And then a young player, Craig Laughlin, who to this date is still with us.
Craig Laughlin will call it the Laughlin trade, but I think everybody else calls it the Langway trade.
The Laughlin trade, as it's known.
Yeah. I'm glad you know that's what it's called.
Got by Gustafson to the right side. Christian centers a score. Rifled home by Laughlin.
I kid my partner Craig all the time, but this was a guy who scored 30 goals at a time when, 30 goals was quite an accomplishment in the National Hockey League.
I was the guy getting another chance, and that's how I was explained to by David Poyle. Some people are calling you a throw-in, but we want you to be part of this team.
They came in from the Mecca, they came in from Montreal, and we were a town that needed this big infusion of hockey talent, We needed to win.
We see the headlines of the sports section. It saved the Caps campaign, and we're like, wait a second, we're going from the Montreal Canadiens to the Washington Capitals, and we don't even know if the team's going to be here.
Arriving in Washington, hockey really still new to the community in a lot of ways.
So we had to try to really push the game of hockey.
We're doing a function down in DC, and then they grabbed 4 of us a picture outside the Capitol building thumbing from Montreal to DC.
We've arrived, we're in town, we're the Washington Capitals, come see us play.
If you looked at that picture, the props are absolutely terrible. It's cardboard boxes.
We put this thing together on the road when they came into town, and that was the start.
If you look at that trade, what Abe was worried about was sending a very popular player away, but what he didn't realize was David was wise enough to really get 4 guys who filled an absolutely huge role.
That trade turned around the fortune of the team.
The Cap Center starting to see the increase in crowds, and then it just started gaining momentum. We made the playoffs that year.
Sold out crowd in the playoffs.
Almost overnight, we started making the playoffs and making the playoffs every year.
That trade saved the Capitals because it made them relevant, and it made a high-quality team with a good young new coach.
If you were to rank the top 50 events or moments in Caps history, it might be my #1 moment because it just turned the whole organization around.